U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Thursday that he will pause the application of tariffs on Mexican imports until April 2nd. The leaders of the European Union hold an emergency meeting to discuss the situation in Ukraine and the rift with the United States. And the Palestinian resistance movement confirmed talks with Washington and claimed that President Trump's threats to Palestinians are upholding Israel's decision on not complying with the ceasefire deal. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Thursday that he will pause the application of tariffs on Mexican imports until April 2nd. Through his social media, Truth Social, Donald Trump affirmed this agreement was reached after a conversation he had with his Mexican counterpart, Claudia Sheinbaum. Trump assured that he made the decision out of respect for the Mexican leader. Earlier today, Sheinbaum confirmed the decision in statements to the press, where she affirmed that Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on its products within the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. This deal will last until April 2nd, when Washington will announce reciprocal tariffs for all countries. For her part, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum took to her social media to address the phone call with U.S. head of state and expressed many thanks to President Donald Trump. We had an excellent and respectful call in which we agreed that our work and collaboration have yielded unprecedented results within the framework of respect for our sovereignties. We will continue to work together, particularly on migration and security issues, which include reducing the illegal crossing of fentanyl into the United States, as well as weapons into Mexico. As mentioned by President Trump, Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on all those products within the TMEC. This agreement is until April 2nd, when the U.S. will announce reciprocal tariffs for all countries. And later during her routine morning press conference, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum described her talk with Trump as very respectful and highlighted that she had shown good results Mexico was delivering in border cooperation.
Entonces, solamente en febrero,
in February alone, the reduction in the seizures of fentanyl on the United States side of the border with Mexico decreased by 41.5%. He did not know this chart until we sent it to him. And, besides, I explained it to him. That what we had decided of sending 10,000 guards to the border to deal with customs checks. Well, it was delivering results.
Pues nos estaba dando.
And the Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao responded to the U.S. move to impose tariffs on the country, urging the government to take internal actions to tackle the fentanyl issue and assuring coercion and extortion will not work on the Asian country.
I want to emphasize that the U.S. must respect the facts regarding the fentanyl issue and take proactive actions itself. Simply shifting blame to China will not solve its own problems. Using this as a reason to impose tariffs on China is misleading and distorting the truth. Coercion and extortion will not work on China, and they cannot intimidate China either. China is firm in its resolve to upholding and safeguarding its own interests. As for the unilateral tariffs imposed by the U.S. side, we have already taken necessary response measures in accordance with basic principles governing international law and the relevant laws and regulations. If the U.S. side goes further down this wrong path, we will fight to the end.
The government of Panama assures that there is no toll adjustment for any vessel arriving from the United States. Canal authorities on Wednesday denied statement by White House spokesman Caroline Leavitt, claiming that they had eliminated tariffs on U.S. ships. The spokeswoman's statements arose in response to a journalist's question regarding President Trump's remarks a day earlier in Congress, where he reiterated that the U.S. will take over the administration of the canal. The Panamanian executive also denied these statements. And migrants deported to Costa Rica denounced physical, psychological, and nutritional mistreatment by U.S. authorities. According to the National Mechanism for the Prevention of Torture, migrants transported to the Costa Rican capital, San Jose, affirmed they were detained, held, and transferred in shackles during their transfer without any explanation given. In addition, they referred rough treatment from the authorities and accused them of withholding their identity documents and belongings, also complaining of the poor quality of food and accommodations. We have now our first short break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. With 3 days ahead of primary and internal elections in Honduras, efforts to guarantee the agility of Sunday's elections are moving forward. So far, 24,858 electoral ballots with their corresponding biometric devices and 8,258 technological kits have been distributed nationwide for the upcoming elections. In addition, the National Electoral Council pointed out that around 5,741 voting centers will be set up, where the polling stations will be installed with their corresponding informative custodians. In this context, the Electoral Council assured that the logistics implemented in these commissions will also guarantee the general elections of November 30th. And the Colombian Congress continues to debate on the healthcare reform on Thursday with 93.4% of its articles approved. With 101 votes in favor and 21 votes against, the Colombian legislative body approved Thursday Articles 48, 56, and 57, leaving only 4 articles to be debated. On Wednesday, after more than 7 hours of debate and with the presence of the Ministers of Interior Armando Benedetti and of Health Guillermo Alfonso Jaramillo, the plenary approved 24 key articles of the reform, including the most controversial ones. In Ecuador, the death toll of the torrential rains impacting the country has risen to 16, as authorities report at least 77,000 residents affected. The National Secretariat of Risk Management briefed that floods, landslides, and mudslides led to the fatalities, also leaving 91 people injured. Furthermore, authorities estimated the weather event caused structural damages in at least 20,400 houses. They further reported losses in agriculture, namely 1,000 hectares of harvest and about 45,000 dead farm animals. In view of the forecast of non-stop rainfall until March 7th, the risk management entity has issued an emergency red alert for 6 of the 24 provinces. And after a meeting in the United Kingdom, the leaders of the European Union held an emergency meeting to discuss the situation in Ukraine and the rift with the United States. The heads of the bloc and the president of Ukraine are meeting again in Brussels to secure their military defenses and to check that Kiev is properly protected. Less than 48 hours ago, the United States halted all codes and intelligence exchanges and afterwards deactivated the guidance systems for the HIMARS rocket launchers. In view of this situation, the Ukrainian head of state has asked Washington for a new opportunity to talk about peace.
Plan. ReArm Europe plan provides up to 800 billion euros for defense investment. It gives the member states fiscal space to invest in defense. It gives the member states possibility to invest in the Ukrainian defense industry or to procure military capabilities that go right away to Ukraine. So it is to the benefit of rearming Europe, rearming the European Union, but also arming Ukraine in its existential fight for its sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Of course, the security and defense of Europe is not separated of Ukraine security and defense. A stronger European defense, it boosts Ukrainian defense, and a stronger capacity for Ukraine defense is also very important to boost our own defense.
And Kremlin issued a statement rejecting Emmanuel Macron's claims that Russia was a threat to be counteracted, even alluding to Europe's nuclear rearmament. On Wednesday, the French president encouraged nations to a major European rearmament and noted that France is ready to harness its nuclear deterrent to safeguard Europe in the face of supposed threats from Russia. In this regard, the Russian spokesperson Dmitry Peskov called Macron's remarks highly confrontational and stressed this stance is aimed at keeping up with war, even willing to use its nuclear weapons to hold its regional leadership. Likewise, Peskov underscored that Macron failed to acknowledge the fact that Russia has been under threats from NATO as the bloc continues to approach its borders. And in this regard, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov responded on Thursday to the French president's remarks on the use of nuclear weapons in Europe, calling them a threat to Russia.
This is a threat to Russia. If Macron considers us a threat, calls a meeting of the chiefs of general staff of European countries and Britain, says that it is necessary to use nuclear weapons, prepare to use nuclear weapons against Russia, this, of course, is a threat.
And on Thursday, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, announced the appointment of Alexander Darshev as the country's new ambassador to the United States. The diplomat designate has a distinguished career, having served as a counselor at the Russian embassy in the U.S. for 5 years and as ambassador to Canada from 2014 to 2021. The appointment ends several months without a head of the Russian diplomatic mission in Washington after previous ambassador Anatoly Antonov returned to the Eurasian nation in October 2024. The U.S. government gave the go-ahead for the new diplomat on February 27th during consultations with the Moscow delegation in Turkey. We have now our second short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The Palestinian resistance movement claimed on Thursday that the U.S. President Donald Trump's abiding threats to the Palestinians are upholding Israel's decision on not complying with the ceasefire deal. A senior Palestinian authorities confirmed having held a meeting with a special envoy of the White House. The leader further asserted the talks left a positive impression, although Washington has just focused on releasing Israeli hostages, namely those with U.S. citizenship. In this context, White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt confirmed that the Trump administration engaged in direct talks with Hamas, saying the discussion aligned with U.S. interests. The encounter, facilitated by Qatari intermediaries, has been the first ever since 1997 and breaks the U.S. rule of not engaging in direct talks with those that Washington labeled as terrorist groups, as is the case of Hamas. And Palestinians in Han Yunis shared their views after U.S. President Donald Trump said that the people of Gaza would be dead and face hell unless Israeli hostages are freed.
If Hamas submits to Trump's decisions and threats, it signifies our failure. We must neither comply with him nor fear him.
There is nothing left to weep for. We have been devastated, our homes reduced to rubble, our sons, fathers, and elders lost. There is nothing left to mourn. Trump threatened to turn Gaza into hell, but it has already become one. What more is there left?
The United Nations lately warned of impending food shortages in the Gaza Strip. The UN alerted that current food stocks will just supply less than 2-week operations of bakeries and kitchens, posing at risk the food security of thousands of people. The entity noted that it may be necessary to reduce the size of rations to cover the needs of more people and the fuel available to maintain bakeries and food transport. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Health Ministry's latest briefing accounted the Israeli offensive against Gaza Strip for over 48,440 deaths and 111,845 injured. Likewise, the United Nations Children's Fund and the UN's World Food Programme warn about the crisis facing the population of Gaza after Israel's decision to prevent humanitarian aid from entering the territory. In a statement, UNICEF said that if medical supplies are not delivered to the territory, routine vaccinations will stop, which will have a severe impact on children. Moving on to other news, violence unleashed during operations ordered by Syria's de facto government has left 13 people dead so far in the southwest of the country. In this regard, it was reported that forces loyal to the de facto president Mohammed al-Julani, a former member of al-Qaeda now calling himself Ahmed al-Shara, carried out brutal raids in the Dara governorate. This way, they seized the rural town of al-Sanmain with the aim of capturing supporters of former President Bashar al-Assad. The action led to heavy fighting between rebel groups and al-Julani forces that, according to a preliminary report of the de facto authorities, killed 8 members of their troops, 1 civilian and 4 rebels, and left several wounded, among them women and children. And Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Thursday the national political advisors attending the joint group meeting at the 14th National Committee of the People's Political Consultative Conference. The head of state, who is also the Secretary General of the Communist Party and chairman of the Central Military Commission, took part in the discussion of the political sectors of the Chinese Democratic League, the Chinese Association for the Promotion of Democracy, and the education sector. This is the highest political advisory body in the country. The simultaneous meeting is known as the Two Sessions because it brings together concurrently the plenary sessions of the Political Consultative Conference of the Chinese People and the National People's Assembly of China. In Brazil, the Beija-Flor Samba School won on Wednesday the Rio de Janeiro Carnival competition. The city that hosts the most famous open-air carnival in the world crowned the ensemble as champion after a showcase that paid tribute to late carnival director Laila, who passed in 2021 after a lifetime of contribution to the festivity. Like this, Beija-Flor became the 3rd biggest winner in Rio Carnival's history with 15 titles. For the 2025 competition, the 2nd place went to the Grande Rio School, while the 3rd prize was awarded to the Imperatriz Leopoldinense Ensemble. The parade was held as is tradition at Rio's Marques de Sapucaí Sambadrome in front of 70,000 people and millions of viewers from all over the world. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.